Argentina are different. And I think we noticed that during the World Cup. It means more to them. I think it meant more to the players. Or maybe they were just like, they're just like emotionally not mature. So the way their feelings came out, it was like pure rage and anger. But it did feel like it meant more to them than the other teams.
Well, it's good to see that Argentina's being normal about a semi-final match against them. Have a watch of this.
Their fans as well remind me of like club fans. How clubs fans get crazy, and you don't really see that in international football. But why is that the case? Why is it that these Argentinians were acting so much more heathenistic, so much more vile than any other fan base?
There's been a lot of talk about how disgusted people have been by the conduct of both Argentinian fans and the Argentinian team at the World Cup this year, regarding huge amounts of perceived anger, violence, threatening behaviour, racism, and total gracelessness in both victory and defeat, from both the fans and the players. Lots of jokes mixed up in this about Argentina's economy, but I think there is something to be said about the level of anger that Argentina seems to be expressing towards the rest of the world, being related to the frustration of living in a country that is economically fumbled. What a lot of people don't know is that Argentina, 100 or so years ago, in like the 1910s and 20s, was one of the richest countries in the world. It was an economic powerhouse. It was one of the top 10 wealthiest countries on earth. It was wealthier than most parts of Western Europe at this time. That wealth was fumbled by 6 dictatorships that Argentina experienced in the 20th century. Wildly varying economic policy and enormous government overspending by these authoritarians has seen Argentina experience an inflation crisis and a stagnant economy that has just kept going and going since roughly the 1960s. Like, you can see that Argentina's economy was growing and growing and growing until you get to roughly the 50s and 60s, and then it just stops. That was the peak. It never got better than that. And now when we look at Argentina in the 21st century, despite being thought of as one of the leading countries in South America, its growth is actually lower than the average for South America. Way, way lower than emerging markets. Out of sheer desperation to just see any kind of economic change or progress for the first time in over 50 years, the people of Argentina voted in Milei, a radical anarcho-capitalist with a haircut that makes him look like a hedgehog. Milei has basically surrendered Argentina to the free market, slashing regulations, going full Reagan, and hoping that it results in some growth. Whether there is growth or not, it's a little bit too early to tell. It hasn't solved the economic problems of the people of Argentina. They came into power in like 2023, and 3.5 years on, not an awful lot has changed. You've got to understand, every other country has still steadily been growing through crisis, through good times, through bad times. Argentina got to roughly this point in the 50s and 60s, and then never got better than that. It's safe to say that the global economy has left Argentina behind some 50, 60 years ago. Now put the rage and the racism and the violence and the riots and the poor sportsmanship and the fouls on the pitch that we saw from Argentina fans and players this year in the World Cup, contextualize it that way. I'm from the UK, which is a famously stagnant, slow economy. But the economic situation for people in Argentina can only really be described as hopeless. Even with the best efforts of Captain and Cap over here, people in Argentina still economically struggle. Our economy is still fighting to see any progress from where it stalled halfway through the 20th century. I am not trying to justify the racism and the violence and the poor sportsmanship and the foul play and the sheer unpleasantness from Argentina's players and fans at the World Cup. I'm just trying to suggest why there might be so much rage bottled up in that country. Because they've had to watch the rest of the world grow and develop around them, while they have been stuck essentially in the same place for a lifetime.
Yeah, so I completely disagree. Vehemently disagree, actually. Because if that was the case, Africa would just be a continent full of just angry people just all the time. And that's just not the case. It's not the case. You're seeing some anger right now. South Africa, the xenophobic group, are doing a lot. But generally speaking, Africans are some of the nicest, most jovial people you will meet. Especially when they're in a different country. It's like they're happy to be there. Right? Whether we're talking about Nigerians, Ghanaians, whatever the case is. This is something deeper. I don't know, Maybe it's because like their ancestors were like Nazis and stuff. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's hereditary. Who knows what it is? But I don't think it's because the economy sucks. Because Argentina's not the worst country in the world. It's one of the worst, but it's not the worst. And there are a number of African countries that are just as bad. And the people, maybe within the country, we don't know what happens in these countries, right? Maybe within the country they're angry, but when they leave the country, they represent themselves and their countries infinitely better than what we've seen with Argentina. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this. I'll be real.
Story time de cómo me quedé sin trabajo.
Ya van 2 años que no consigo trabajo formal.
Casi 20 de cada 100.000 personas deciden quitarse la vida.
No puedo acceder a cosas que yo...
So let me pause the video here. They're speaking in Spanish. There's a job crisis in Argentina right now among like everything else, right? People are losing their jobs. Young people in particular can't find jobs. I mean, that's kind of the same over here. But, you know, their lives on average already suck. So you're losing jobs now when even if you had a job, your life weren't great. That's kind of dark.
Antes accedía mínimo una vez por mes. O sea, ni siquiera puedo acceder a comprarme ropa. Yo estudiaba en una universidad privada, tuve que dejar.
Prices have tripled. Wow. Damn.
¿Podemos hablar de lo desesperanzador que es ser joven en Argentina?
Tengo 30 años, 2 títulos y estoy desempleada.
Tengo 800 CVs distintos para distintos tipos de trabajo. Hay muy pocas opciones de trabajo y las pocas opciones de trabajo que hay rozan la esclavitud y la explotación laboral.
Tengo 25 años, estoy endeudado en más de 30 millones de pesos, sin trabajo.
Damn.
Estoy cansada porque ya no sé qué más hacer. Perdón si me quiebro, pero ya van 2 años de esta situación y estoy desesperada.
Antes el sueño de nuestros padres era la casa propia, tener una casa propia.
Now again, I have to be honest. Many of those problems in that video are problems that we're experiencing in the UK, for example. But to be facing those, I mean, just imagine, right? The quality of life is already poor, right? If most people were employed, whatever the case is. But now like 4 in 10 young people are unemployed or have whatever amount of debt. Now plus the suicide rates have gone up. Now plus people are, you know, whatever percentage of 35-year-olds are living with their parents. On top of the fact that life wasn't good in general anyways. You've got all these compounding issues.
I genuinely cannot take Argentinians seriously because we have Javier Milei. They elected as president years ago. I'm not even gonna look it up. Nothing gets better. In fact, things get worse. Okay, an election's coming up. It's time to get him out of office. But then he manages to get like a $45 billion payout from the United States. So then the government doesn't completely fall apart. If something like that happens, if your president needs to beg another country for money so your country doesn't fall apart, do you think you should still vote for him? To the average Argentinian, the answer is yes. So Milei is still president. Things are still getting worse. So bad, in fact, that Argentinians have to resort to eating donkey meat so then they don't starve. None of that is the nail in the coffin for me. The nail in the coffin is a reporter interviewing a young Argentinian voter, a young woman, early 20s. They ask her, how does she feel about the situation, about Milei and stuff like that? She says that things have gotten so bad that she doesn't even know if she can stay in Argentina, her home. Things have become unaffordable, that she might have to move to a different country. All right, the reporter asks, okay, does that change your political views? Would you lean more to the left because of how disastrous Milei has been to Argentina? Her answer, no. She said she would never be a left-winger and she would still vote for, right-leaning politics. To me, someone like that is barely sentient. You voted for policies that destroyed your country, and now you threaten to move to another country to vote for those exact policies to destroy your future home? Argentinians, an unserious bunch.
A lot of people don't look at politics the way they look at religion, and a lot of the time it's the same thing. Do people just stop believing in God? No. So yeah, there are a lot of people, they vote for a particular party, it crumbles around them, and they find ways to double, triple down, because it's more than just politics to some people. But he mentioned the food system, and yeah, it is dark, and they are eating horse meat, donkey meat, okay, all kinds of meat.
This is what an economic miracle looks like. In Argentina, beef, one of the country's most iconic foods, is becoming too expensive for a lot of people. Prices have reportedly jumped fast, with some cuts soaring so high that families are being forced to look for alternatives. First it was chicken, and then pork, and then even eggs got to be too expensive. And now, some producers are selling donkey meat as a cheaper option. And it's friggin' selling out.
Not the donkeys?
Now let that sink in. In a country famous for beef, people are looking for anything they can afford. Now zoom out. Since Javier Milei took office, he's pushed aggressive economic changes. Sounds familiar? Cutting government spending, slashing subsidies, and trying to bring down inflation. And to be fair, inflation has slowed compared to where it was. But here's the trade-off critics are pointing to. Prices are still rising, and for many everyday working people, wages are just not keeping up. Sounds familiar? Some business owners are saying that sales are down, and reports suggest that consumers are even turning to payment plans just to pay for food. So while the Marco numbers might look better on paper, the day-to-day reality feels very different. And that's the bigger question here. When politicians talk about fixing the economy, who is it actually working for? Because when people can't afford basics, it sure as hell doesn't feel like a miracle.
The system in Argentina is messed up. Let me show you why. So I just bought this pack of 2 ribeyes. You can see here it's about half a kilogram, which is about 1 pound. Price here is in pesos, but it comes out to about $4 per pound. So meat in Argentina is literally dirt cheap, but I just bought this pack of strawberries and blueberries and tomatoes, and it cost me the equivalent of $18. This in the US would probably be like $3, $4. This would probably be somewhere in like, I don't know, $5, $6 too. But for whatever reason, and I've heard this from multiple sources, vegetables, fruits, produce in Argentina is really hard to get here, I suppose. And then for that reason, it's really expensive. Overall,
yeah, we have a similar problem in the Caribbean. The fresh food, the meat, the fruits, the veg, quite cheap. But like cereal, condensed milk, like some real random shit, it's just so expensive. But that's because of like import tax and all that kind of stuff. But you guys let me know your thoughts and opinions on this. Argentina's economy, could it be the reason why they're acting out on the main stage? Again, I don't think that's the case.
This liquor got me in my zone. Now I'm blowing up your phone. Blowing weed, smoking the ozone.